Siege is transitioning into
There we go.
literally in the
I heard Siege.
worst state it's ever been.
How?
Oh, here we go.
Good game.
They made Siege worse? I thought it was gonna be better.
Literally in the worst state it's ever been.
How?
Thank you, B-Nans, for speaking the truth.
Oh, how does that happen every time?
Pros are really upset that Siege is transitioning into a utility game rather than gunfight game.
Not entirely true, not entirely wrong. We're not really frustrated with the fact that it's going away from a shooter into a utility game. We're frustrated that the utility meta or the utility game is so one-sided, right? Because think about it this way, when you're a defender in Siege, you basically choose and dictate how the attackers play the game. Because if you pick 7 shields on defense, the attackers need to pick 7 explosives on attack. If you pick 2 shields, they need to pick 2 explosives, right? Like that. So it's not that we're frustrated necessarily with the game being less shooting based. It's definitely more about the fact that defenders have too many tools and attackers not enough tools. Because if you look at a very generic lineup, for example, what's the most common lineup these days? Just in short, probably Sophia, Ashe, Heartbreach, 1x or 2x, and you want to play vertical, right? Nades, which is Sledge. So let's say you're playing Hibana, Ace, Sophia, Ashe, Sledge, right? Let's say you play your cards perfectly. You have 2 from Sophia, 2 from Ashe, 2 from Sledge. You have 6 total. Enemy on a defense, a very common lineup could be Wamai, Goyo, Smoke, Jaeger, +1. That +1 could be a Valkyrie. So let's say you have 1 shield plus 2 shield plus 1 shield plus 1 shield, right? So you have 5 shields in this single lineup, and you have obviously 3 ADSs from Jaeger, which denies 6, plus you have the 5 Omais, right? So you're basically denying 11 flashbang, utility, etc. On attack, you only with this lineup, you only have 3 flashbangs on Ashe, plus 3 flashbangs on Hibana, which is 6. And then if you're very, very, very lucky, you can use 2 Sophia stuns, which is inconsistent because of the players. That's 8. Let's say that's 8. And then you need to use 2 smoke grenades from Ace, plus 1 Ace charge. And then you can start killing shields. After spending all your flashbangs, 2 smoke grenades, which all your smoke grenades, plus 1 Selma charge, which is the explosive from, or his gadget from Ace. So in Siege, we have raw value versus active value, right? I don't know if active is the right word. Raw value is when you pick something and you instantaneously benefit. This is why Jaeger is so good, because you put down ADSs in prep phase and they get you value. Barbed wire, traps, shields. No matter if you die, even if you're 1 versus 5 on defense, all these raw value, they will benefit you even in a 1 versus 5 situation, because they are put into the game to your disposal. And attackers always need to keep this in mind. With this goes Meister Camps, Melusi Traps, Valkyrie Cameras, Bulletproof, Echo Drones, you get the idea. What operators are the strongest in the entire game? The passive ones. Melusi, Maestro, Echo, Bulletproof, insanely strong in personal play with the current meta. Shields have changed the entire way of how we play the game. Let's say you're playing Pulse. You have a C4. You have a mute with you, C4, right? Let's say you both die. That C4 is now 0. You never used it. You never threw it. You didn't get a kill. You didn't have a chance to get a kill. You got wallbanged, right? If you had played Valkyrie's shield and you put down your shield, no matter what happens to you, your shield is an obstacle for the enemy that they have to deal with. That's why it's so strong. You can play Pulse, Vertical, and Consulate, but the enemy never comes within range. You never hit the C4. Maybe you don't feel comfortable because you're always moving. Basically, you might get a kill, right? Might get a kill. Every 3rd C4 is a guaranteed kill. I think that's a pretty good statistic, actually. Not considering plant deny, etc. But like vertical C4s where people are not standing still. I'm gonna say 30 to 45% depending on the situation. So let's say at absolute best player level in the world, not even 1 out of 2 C4s will get a kill. But every single shield you pick up gets 100% value if you're putting it in the pixel spot in Cafe, because the enemies have to attack it. Obviously, let's say you're playing Oregon, your shield gets 50% value because either they're going front side attack or they're going back side attack. So even if you're the worst player in the entire world, your shield will get 50% of its value every single time, no matter what. But if you're the worst player in the world with C4, you're probably gonna get 0 to 5% success rate. Now, the best part is that shields are movable. So what you'll often see Pro League players do, this is blue construction, right? So you have the barrel here, and you have a hallway here, and it goes this way, right? And then you have like the door here, whatever. You have Harry Potter, you have tower stairs. If you slap a shield, you have a rotate here. If you have a slap a shield right here and they don't go backside, you just pick it up and you move it into the launcher rotate and you just slap it here. And your 50% shield is now 100% because you can move it accordingly to the situation. Because attackers in most maps, if not almost all maps, need to hard decide on what side of the map they want to attack. And if they don't do that, they're going to have a very weak attack because they're going to either be lacking information or rotation or time, which means the shield still gains you a lot of value because they can't go there. Whereas C4, once you pre-place it, usually you're far away. With the shield is always in your defending position, right? It's always on your side of the map. Sure, if you're playing Cafe, there's a shield in pixel spot, you probably don't want to pick that up because you'll die doing it. But at the same time, you're never, ever, ever, ever gonna need to pick it up because the value you get from that shield, no matter what happens, is insane. And if we do this, and this is kind of where the math comes in, is that the current strongest and best meta, the easiest meta to play and the hardest to play against is the Maestro, you know, Melusi, Echo, Valkyrie, well, my Jaeger combination, Smoke. Because power creep. The sheer value of picking these operator over any other defender in the entire game, unless, let's say the enemy is playing Yin Glass, the best operator you can pick is basically going to be Maestro, Bulletproofs, and Warden. Warden is the key factor here. He's a very specific pick. He's obviously better than a Jaeger would be in this case, assuming that the Jaegers are not going to catch the smoke grenades, right? The ADSs. So obviously there are specific direct counters, but basically all these operators combined, they have, let's echo you actually. They have so much that the attackers just have to deal with at all times. You know, on Cafe, back in the day, we used to reinforce all the walls, put a bandit there, put a mute gemma, put a kite charge. Nowadays, we open the walls, we put shields in the open walls, and we challenge. Like, there's a triple shield meta right now in Cafe. We put a shield in stock, shield in pixel, shield in bathroom. If you go back 6 months, all those walls used to be reinforced. Now they're open with line of sight because the shields basically act as mirror windows. They're just as deadly. A little bit easier to get rid of, but basically as deadly. You can't play IQ anymore. I mean, it's a fucking godsend that Echo's default banned in Pro League because you cannot play IQ anymore. It's impossible. That's why Valkyrie's seeing more bans as well, because Valkyrie and Echo are banned. That means that no IQ at all is necessary because you need to run at least 6 soft destruction, which is the Sophia Ash nades. Unless Maverick's open, because then you can replace the nades with the soft breach by playing Maverick. Plus, you can do just Sophia or Ash instead of doing Sophia and Ash. And then you can free up the lineup a little bit, but you still need the utility clear. So the Sophia in this case would have to 6-pick into something with flashbangs. That's why Ash is better than Sophia, because Ash has 5 utility clear. She has 3 flash plus 2 ashes, whereas Sophia has 4, but the stuns don't always work. So she technically only has 2, and that's her soft breach. So Ash is like 20 billion times better than Sophia in this meta for that reason. Also, Ash's Ash breach, Ash charge, whatever. It has a bigger explosion radius, meaning that you can... It's more forgiving if you want to kill a shield or a soft breach utility. Why can't you play IQ? Well, do the math, right? If the enemy is playing Maestro, Melusi, Smoke, Wamai, Jaeger, right? This is a very normal lineup. This is a very realistic lineup in professional play. Again, you got the 2 Maestro Cams, 3 Melusis, and 1+1 shield. It's a lot of shit to deal with. You have 7 only soft destructible gadgets. And as I said before, if you play Wamai plus Jaeger, you have 11 flashbangs or soft breach you can deny, which is more than what most teams bring because of the meta. If you play IQ, you can be more effective or efficient, I should say, because you'll know where shit is, right? So you know there's 1 ADS here, there's 1 ADS there, and there's a 3rd ADS here. So if you want to clear this effectively, don't throw your flashbangs from that window, because then you'll get hit by the first ADS. So if we want to do a scenario for this, we'll take Cafe. So if you have the building, that's very round. If we have a building that's more like a square, you have the mini bar window here, and you'll have the stage rappel and the south stage rappel. Here, you got your 90 hallway. So we have a shield here. The meta game used to be 3 ADSs here. ADS, or like they'll be here, right? You get the idea. And then people, they would go to the minibar window and they would throw flashbang, 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 flashbang until it's gone. But then with the current meta, you can't play IQ anymore. So what people started doing is they started putting ADS here. And they started putting ADS here. And then all of a sudden, people don't know where to flash from, because if you flash from here, but you nade from here, then you'll still get ADS'd. So now all of a sudden, you play this mind game where you keep rotating the ADSs around because you can't play IQ anymore. But if you play IQ, you can't clear all the ADSs because you don't have enough flashbangs. Now you gotta start using your either your nomad chargers, your cell map breaches from A's, or you start using your soft breach or nades to clear the final ADS. So playing IQ will make it more efficient because you'll know where the ADSs are, but you lose 3 flashbangs, which means that that's 1.5 ADS, which is half the clearing that you need to do. That's why teams nowadays, they just force 6 plus flashbangs, then you play 2 nades and you play 4 soft. Or if you play Kali, then you play 5 soft because you have the 3+2 instead of 2+2. And then you can use one Kali charge to clear the final ADS charge, and then Kali again, then get the shield. Then you have 1 Kali for bathroom, 1 mute jammer, or stock 1 mute jammer, and then you can breach with ace. But no matter what you do, you're always sacrificing something. And I guess the biggest issue comes down to the fact that it's very, very strong operators that have very strong gadgets, that have very strong secondary gadgets, right? Well, Maya is one of the best operators in the entire game. And he also has a shield, which is the strongest secondary gadget. Plus, he has the best gun in the entire defense, statistically. Obviously, people would rather play Jaeger's 416 than Wamai's AUG, but statistically speaking, Wamai has the strongest gun on the entire defense, which is kind of crazy. Smoke, best gadget in the entire game, is the only one of its kind until Tachanka comes out, which is, year 5. Has a shield, has shotgun, secondaries in G11, one of the most versatile operators in the entire game, 1.5x on his FMG if you want to play mute shotgun, and mute also has MP5K 1.5 if you want to play smoke shotgun, so they balance each other very well. Melusi has, she's a 3-speed with 3 of her gadget boys, C4 impacts. One of the, again, the most universal operators. You can always bring her. There's no downside. Great gun, etc. They even buffed her, giving her the angle, give MP5. Maestro, secondary shotgun. All that goes brrr. 2 Maestro cams that can kill drones, damage you, deny the plant, and spot you, and they see through smokes. And Jaeger, your staple, best, most played operator in the entire game, in both ranked and in Pro League, because you can always bring the Jaeger. If you took away the shield from Smoke and Wamai, a lot of things would happen. If you want to replace them, not only do you lose a shotgun, and you lose 5 magnets, right, which is ADS clear, you lose 2 shields, and to replace those shields, you gotta start playing Alibi Ella, which means you get the shotgun back. In Alibi, it's significantly worse, right? And you get Ella, which her current gun is it's basically not good enough for Pro League, is what a lot of pros deem it. Or you start playing Warden, which his gadget is kind of useless, but he has the same stuff as Smoke, SMD12 and shotgun. So if you took away the shields from Smoke or Mai, you will directly change the meta game, because if you want to replace those shields that you've lost, you either play really off meta operators, which creates a new meta, or you start playing Goyo, because Goyo has 2 shields, plus you can still play the Wamai or the Smoke, like whatever you wanted to, but you force Goyo into the meta, which makes way more sense because you pick him for the gadget, which is his shields. Already there, it's a better meta than the current meta, and you can't stack so hard. And if you banned Goyo all of a sudden, which could happen, you cannot replace those shields unless you are forced onto these really off meta operators, which of course will become meta for some teams. But the biggest part and the biggest point that this will do, it'll create different team personalities. Let's say you're BDS. Do you really think BDS likes the current meta? I don't know BDS personally, but I'm gonna say no, I don't think they do. Why? They have very, 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 very skilled gunners, very, very good clutch players, incredible coordination and teamwork. They would destroy in 2018, 2019 Siege meta. But you have teams like SSG, for example, Dark Zero, for example, etc., that do like this meta because they like playing strategy, they have the players for it, and it's how they've built up their playstyle. And what you're gonna get by doing this is actually allow teams to have an identity. Some teams will play passive, some teams will play aggressive, and what will signify what they do will be their operator picks based off their secondary gadgets and utility, rather than everyone picking the same 5 operators and playing the exact same way because it's the strongest, easiest, laziest, and most effortless with the best result. We used to have Vitality back in Pro League in Europe, and we used to call them the last 20-second team because they literally would always execute in the last 5 sometimes seconds, and they would have to sprint in, hold F. If you kill the planter, you win the round. But they had such a good setup because they used so much time. Most teams start executing around 50. They had at least extra 30 plus seconds to just set up perfectly what they want to do, execute, etc. And they are so hard to play against. And you had teams that would just crouch walk around, like the old Chaos, for example, and they would just get kills. Then you had teams like Empire that were super strat heavy, where they would ABC the fuck out of every attack, and it made them dominate for almost 2 years until people figured it out. you had identity in teams. Nowadays, on top of my head, I don't watch that much Pro League because, again, I think it's boring to watch it in the current meta. From the prep work that we've done on all our opponents in EUL so far, there's no team that's like, wow, these guys play the game differently. Oh, these guys don't play shields. These guys don't sit in this corner with 20 ADSs. No one has ever done that. If every team is playing the same way, there are some teams that peak more than others, like Na'Vi and BDS, for example, where they'll take gunfights because they have the players for it, but their overall philosophy of how they approach the defenses are the same. This is pretty much as simplified as you can make it, I think, on the current issues. And you see, this is just me rambling with no prep work. It's quite a lot to suck in. This is the kind of video I want to make for my video idea about the utility meta. This is just what I can say on top of my head from experience. I already have the script written out, not fully, but it's there. And I have the video evidence. I have operator bans, both in ranked and pro league. This is the kind of video that I want to make to showcase why we are where we are in the meta and what we can do to fix it as well. I'll come up with suggestions.